Hello, welcome back to the first Royal Rota after the summer break. The Royals are all back at it, and there is, I say, quite a lot to talk about. We always do this programme when there's a lot to talk about with the Royals, and boy, is there a lot to talk about. And we invited someone who's quite good at talking into the studio. Robert Jobson is the Royal Editor of the Evening Standard newspaper, and someone who's been doing this job for as many years as I've been alive.
Is it, what, 30?
Nearly 30.
Nearly 30 years.
3 decades.
He's clearly a Royal Editor of some notoriety. Also joining us, as ever, is Lizzie Robinson, who's the producer of the ITV News Royal Bureau. Now, you keep asking me, where are we going to start? What are we going to talk about first? Now, a lot of times people say to me, why do you focus so much on Harry and Meghan? Why don't you talk about other members of the royal family? So, this time I'm going to leave it down to you. Do you want to start talking about Harry and Meghan's flights, Prince Andrew and Jeffrey Epstein? Do you want to talk about Charlotte's first day at school? Do you want to talk about, I don't know, Duchess of Cambridge's Back to Nature Garden, Boris and the Queen, the Braemar Gathering, Harry Invictus Games? I mean, what? I mean...
Well, the thing is, you just said it's been a quiet summer and they're all off, but it's been hugely busy. You know, in terms of very serious story on Prince Andrew and the Jeffrey Epstein scandal and all of that emerged that's been running in the papers all through the summer. Yep. Also, the fact that Harry and Meghan, in a way, because they took these private flights, it was their holiday and it was on another
This isn't an answer. I want an answer about what we're talking about first. So
definitely not Charlotte going to school, because that's not... I would talk about Prince Andrew.
OK, right, there you go. Yeah, the decision made, and then no one can blame me for making the decision. So, as you say, very serious. I mean, the allegations surrounding Jeffrey Epstein were serious enough. Prince Andrew's had to make, 2 statements at least over the summer about his knowledge or otherwise of everything going on. He's reiterated once again that in 2010 he made an error of judgment when he went to see him when Epstein had already been convicted. I mean, reputationally, where are we with Prince Andrew at the moment?
Well, it's not good. I mean, but the people I think are judging him on... I actually was on a TV show when someone said, he should be banned from all his royal duties. And I said, well, what evidence have you got that he's done anything really wrong? Yeah. And then the answer was, it was a whiff. I said, you can't convict somebody or couldn't actually damn their entire life on a whiff. It's almost like McCarthyism to me. The way,
as you say, in this country, it's very, it's a very strict line that you are innocent until proven otherwise.
Right, and the Prince, the Duke has admitted that he made an error of judgment by going to see Epstein in 2010. He went to a dinner party which TV presenter Kater Kurik was there. He was photographed without his knowledge, walking in Central Park with Epstein. Now, in his defence, and I'm not here to defend him, I would say that was a mistake. Error of judgment.
Well, he said it was a mistake as well.
But the point of it is, he'd known the guy for 10 years. He values loyalty above all else. He was going basically to say, I can no longer have any more ties with you, and to end their association, which had been for over 10 years. Now, I've read all the documents in this, and not only did a judge in America a few years ago say that Virginia Roberts' testimony was unreliable, impertinent.
And that judge struck it out of
court. And the judge struck it from the record. Yep. And when you read it, you understand why. Because there are incidents in those documents that are quite shocking, really. That, for example, we all know that a contemporaneous note as a journalist is a legal document. We all know that we can submit our notebooks in a case. Her diaries that she had, it says this in the documents, were written 10 years after they were supposed to be contemporaneous. When she was interviewed by the FBI about Epstein, which I think is a vile creature, and he deserved everything he got. The fact is, those diaries were burnt. When she was interviewed by the FBI, she never mentioned Prince Andrew, and he has no recollection whatsoever meeting her. There is this photograph. Damning photograph. I've spoken to people about that, and there are clear problems with that photograph.
Well, there is some suggestion, isn't there? And there's been some talk, and I don't know where this started, but there's some talk about this photograph has been doctored or photoshopped or whatever else, because something to do with the angle at which the arm is around her body.
Yeah.
I mean,
but even if it hasn't
okay, I mean, it's an odd argument to make, but then again, perhaps if as Prince Andrew's office says, he never remembers meeting her, then maybe they do, maybe they are questioning the validity of.
Well, they are questioning that. I mean, genuinely questioning, because and I've actually spoken to a couple of experts on this, and they said, well, I could prove within 2 minutes if that was a fake, if I had the original. But guess what? When you go back to the original,
It's a photograph of a photograph.
It's a photograph of a photograph, which cost £140,000 that the papers that were involved bought. The original, she says she's now lost. There are so many strange things. Dancing in Tramp nightclub with him whilst he was drunk on cocktails. He's a teetotaler, has been all his life.
Prince Andrew, yes.
So there are lots of clear things that say it's unreliable, and we're not just saying that on here.
Yeah.
That's, a judge said, be very careful about this evidence. Now, it's gone from being a criminal case to now it's been a civil case. Epstein killed himself.
There's going to be criminal charges because he killed himself.
So the level in America, the level of proof is different.
Right.
To get the money. Okay, so this is what it's going to come down to. The bottom line is he's got a huge estate and they'll all be suing for the money. And those people that have been abused by him absolutely should get what they deserve. And I think that's the feeling that the Duke of York has, is that they are victims, but not of him.
Anyone will have sympathy for the victims and for what they've been through. The difficulty, though, Lizzie, for the Duke of York is that he's been continuing his engagements as normal. Run through this, what he's been doing in the past, few days, but he's come back from the summer, when this has rarely been out of the headlines, but he's been back doing his official duties. Yeah,
he went back. We saw him at an event on Saturday in Bruges, at a memorial event. And then this week he's been at a golf course in Northern Ireland, Portrush, where he's been holding his Duke of York Young Challenge Trophy for young people. And we saw him out on the golf course. We had pictures of him there on Monday. So he's been continuing work as usual. But even
there were some questions about who he was talking to, not just where he was. I mean, County Antrim's a beautiful part of the country, the golf course, and I think, by all accounts, it's a great tournament for young junior golfers, men and women. But he was seen talking to a PR expert.
Someone who specialises in profile management.
Reputation management, exactly. And therefore, I mean, immediately, rather than just being an event about a golf course, everyone's saying, well, why is he talking to this guy called Paul Tweed? Is he employing him?
And we were told quite clearly, Buckingham Palace said, Prince Andrew has not employed him. He's not working for Prince Andrew. Yeah. They're friends. He's a friend of the Yorks. He's there as a friend. But
he will be taking his. I mean, of course,
we don't know what they were talking about. Let's be clear, we don't know what they were talking about.
He would have taken the council a lot of people, and quite rightly, because his reputation has been completely rubbished over absolutely with no evidence whatsoever that he's done anything wrong, and I think that's pretty bad. I think that basically he's not particularly well liked in Fleet Street amongst some of the newspapers. And, he's getting an absolute caning. So I think that, if this had been a celebrity or a politician, I think we'd probably be in the libel courts by now. I think that as a member of the royal family, they're pushing it to the nth degree. And they've got to be very careful. I think that you cannot tarnish someone's reputation to that extent with no evidence it's done wrong.
And we should also be clear that when the victims of Jeffrey Epstein went to court in New York, as they did a couple of weeks ago, at no point in court did Prince Andrew's name come up. It only came up outside court when Virginia
Why? Because immediately a judge, even in that level, would have said that's contempt of court because you're going against what a previous judge says. And just one other thing. Those lawyers outside, American lawyers are very different to the way they operate over here. There's a lot of shenanigans goes on. But the fact is, outside, they said, we've been in touch with Prince Andrew directly. They have had not one letter or phone call from Virginia Roberts' lawyers.
So they say they want to talk to Prince Andrew. No,
they've said they've spoken to him.
They've told the media they want to talk to Prince Andrew, but at no point have they asked his office for any
They've said, we've repeatedly asked Andrew to give evidence. They have never once been in touch with him.
And I suppose from a legal point of view, we should say that Prince Andrew has made a statement about this. He has said quite clearly that he does not remember meeting Virginia Roberts. He has stated in that statement that he had no knowledge of or involvement in any of the crimes Jeffrey Epstein was accused of, and that his sympathy is with the victims. For legal reasons, that is important that we point that out.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Next. Okay. Can we get to item 2 without
mentioning? Very serious, that one.
Can we get to item 2 without talking about Harry and Meghan? We could talk. Let's talk about Charlotte at school. See, I'm trying to allay all those critics who say we talk too much about Harry and Meghan. So Charlotte at school. Beautiful, wasn't it?
It was very sweet.
It's special for any family. But
it brought me back. My son's now coming up to 18, but he went to Thomas's in Fulham, the sister school, in that little outfit, and I remember him bawling his eyes out the night before. So it brought it all back, but it was so sweet the way the pair of them were together. I mean, they're so almost plastic perfect, you know, the way
was lovely.
they come in. It's a lovely scene, and the way she was flicking her hair and doing all that. Fantastic. You know, she's going to have a ball there because they have a great thing there that if you basically, all I remember is about this school is if you do anything right, like if you know, they've got the motto is be kind. I was absolutely annihilated for screaming to my son to come first in the race. And they came up to me and said, no, that's not what we do here. And I was told, you know, basically everyone's a winner. And I'm thinking, really? And then when he did his shoelaces up, they sent him a golden unicorn, which is what you get if you do your shoelaces. I thought, wow, this is really worth every penny.
Do you know what I liked about the pictures? I like that George's face was like, oh God, I'm back here again. And Charlotte's face was, oh, this is fun. I mean, you could see who's been to school for 2 years.
Yeah.
And
the photographs, everyone was saying how much she looked like the Queen, and everyone then started doing pictures of the Queen when she was little. I didn't think it was the Queen when she's little. It's the expression in the eyes and the mouth now, as you almost see the Queen in there. I don't know. That's what
I think those comparisons between Charlotte and the Queen have sort of been made before, haven't they?
Yeah.
When Charlotte's been out and about. But
and it was quite sweet. You could just on the camera hear Kate saying to her, you know, George will help show you the way because he's obviously been there for 2 years.
Yeah.
So
Do you think
your big brother.
Do you think he ran into his year 2 mates?
Do you remember? I mean, my brother was at school with me and didn't even acknowledge he existed.
And actually, while we're talking about the Cambridges, I mean, Kate was out with, it depends whether you're watching this in the UK or not, but out with a very well-known chef, celebrity chef Mary Berry the other day at this Back to Nature garden. A big thing of Kate's, isn't it? Then she launched this back at the Chelsea Flower Show, a few months ago now, when all the children, George, Charlotte and Louis, were brought out. And Kate wants families and their children to connect with nature. I mean, it's good for your mental health, it's good for your physical health. And again,
this is all part of her sort of early years work that she believes is so important, getting children outside. It's good for mental and physical health, as you say, and their families. So this garden that she designed that went to Chelsea has been to Hampton Court and has now been taken to Wisley, where they've created a kind of permanent play garden for children at Wisley. So she was there with Mary Berry a few days ago.
Looking like she was having
and what's good about this is if you go back to when Kate started in the royal world, you know, she was quite nervous. I think the very fact that she's doing this all very much, it's her gig. She looked very, very confident, completely at one with the whole thing. Didn't need the support of William or the kids there. You know, I know we've had that at the Chelsea Garden, but I thought it was really confident. And then everyone apparently abroad now, it's because Mary Berry has touched her tummy, has told me that it could be a 4th child on the way. So I said,
your hand is
really? It's a long way away.
I'm still working. So your prediction is for a 4th child?
No, not mine.
No. That's
German television and everyone can ring that. So, as Mary Berry, the Queen of Cakes, nearly touched Kate's. I won't
She
go
must
any near.
be.
This is me too. I won't go any near anymore. Nearly touched her belly or her tummy, whatever you call it. She's pregnant.
she did.
You heard it first on the Royal Rota.
You did.
There we go. So we'll
did
make
give
a
a
prediction already. There's going to be another royal baby and possibly even another royal wedding. Everyone keeps telling me that we haven't heard the last of the York's children. Beatrice and Eduardo are going to get married later this year. So maybe we'll make all the predictions now.
It's going to happen.
Another royal baby.
I reckon we're going to have next year. We'll have 2 babies and a wedding.
2 babies.
We'll hold you to that. We'll have you back to see.
Oh, another baby for the Sussexes. Is that also your
because
prediction?
then that's 2, isn't it?
Oh, we've mentioned.
You're only allowed 2. Now we're on to the
Now
it's his fault.
No, you went Sussex first. So, how's your CO2 footprint?
Mine's fine. If someone offers me a private jet, I'll take it.
Yeah. Lizzie, how many private jets did you take over the summer?
None. Yeah,
right.
you?
No. I did get a commercial flight to Amsterdam along with Harry, who got a commercial flight to Amsterdam.
We're not allowed to talk about who we like to fly with, though, are we?
No. I think also I should point out here that we think
it's just one big world that we've got to help survive with global footprint, isn't it?
We think our CO2 for our trip to Amsterdam was offset by the conference that we went to with Harry. So, as was his and the rest of it.
Right, private jet.
Why are we talking about private jets?
Because Meghan and Harry were offered the use of
How many?
them. I think it's 4 flights altogether, isn't it?
There was Nice and back, there was Ibiza and back, and there's also, and again, it's a little bit more speculative, that he went to this Google camp in Sicily
and was barefoot.
And went barefoot, but went there in private jet and back. So it could be 6, but we know at least 4, and we definitely know that Elton John
went on the record, didn't he, to say that it was for safety. Now and again, 95% of the time he travels commercial. I think it was a daft thing to say that. because of course it's not
What is
for
it?
safety.
I mean, is it?
It's not because it's just not, is it? I mean, I used to years ago. Now we're going back years ago during the war. Diana used to fly economy on, whatever airline it was, and she would do that with the kids, and they'd have the bit upstairs, a couple of seats in the economy, and that's how she used to fly. So,
a bit upstairs in the economy. What plane is this?
Well, it was on a. I mean,
upstairs is normally first class, or
no, there was a bubble. They used to have the economy up there.
Right. Okay, so Harry said quite clearly. So you went to this conference in Amsterdam. The reason it became a news story twofold. For example, we don't take paparazzi picture. We didn't use the shots of Harry and Meghan boarding this private jet in the south of France.
Not the standard.
Why did we do the story? Because Elton John opened his laptop and started tweeting about it and saying,
"Got a film out."
Let's just deal with the flights. It's just saying that he, lent them the plane. He offset the CO2. That they're being treated really, really badly. That gives everyone.
It's not the offsetting, okay? The replanting of the trees is the fact.
Well, there's some question marks about whether offsetting works or not, but that's a whole different subject.
But the point of it is, if you can't sit there and say, do this, and then do something else. It's as simple as that. It's nothing to do with...
Even if it's for the privacy and safety of your family?
Because it's nonsense. That is just nonsense.
The whole world wants a picture of Archie at the moment. If they went on a BA flight, then people would be getting out their camera phones.
And then when Diana used to get on the flights with her two sons, the whole world wanted pictures of Diana, probably more than Archie, and William and Harry. And they were on there. They used to go to special services, and they would check in. Everyone would be on the plane. They would drive up to the plane, get on their front seats. No one saw them, and then they get off first. Tell me how that's difficult. I don't see how anyone was going to get a photograph. Behind them, their bodyguards would be protection officers. No one was taking photographs. It is nonsense.
But should we therefore explain why? It's all about, I think, with Harry and Meghan, often because the way in which stories are conflated. How it's about the calendar essentially. So she guest edited the Vogue magazine. Harry had been in there, sort of suggesting that he wants to have two kids for the sake of the environment. Clearly, there was a strong focus on the environment. Then they took these flights, and then Harry launched this campaign, as he did in Amsterdam, for sustainable tourism. I mean, did someone sort of overlook how those issues might look when they're put together?
You don't need to have to be a rocket scientist to realise that maybe that is wrong, that they got it wrong in perception. That nobody is saying that sustainable tourism is bad. I think it's fantastic. Well done. Brilliant.
Yeah.
As for the timing of the going on the private jets, look, they're not ordinary people, so stop trying to be ordinary people. Yeah. Okay,
so therefore they should be allowed to get private jets.
Well, of course, they should be allowed to take private jets, but then pick your agenda better and the timing of your agenda. All of this has happened because, number one, quite unfairly in my view, there was massive criticism about the house and the money that was spent on renovating their house.
Okay.
And from that moment, they started taking...
Again, there's a timing issue because it was about the 2.4 million they spent on...
Then it was starting to unravel.
Spent from the sovereign grant on the
Then it started to unravel, unfairly, I think.
Followed very close succession by the christening, which they wanted to be as private as possible. Now,
but they are private.
Christenings
are private. Essentially, all royal Christians are private.
Again, is it an issue with the two matters coming too close together?
I just think it was the way it was presented.
Right.
I mean, the fact is, when Louis was christened and George, there wasn't a media there. There was a pool report and a camera. And this particular one, there was a camera. The way that it was handled was that they could have just said, well, we don't want there to be all this coming out. And that's what we're doing. I think that the reality is with the godparents, no one really cared that much, did they? But this became a major story in the tabloids. Who are the godparents? Well, just release their names. I mean, what difference does it make? I really think that they just made it worse. And actually, they didn't do really anything different to the Cambridges.
If you crave a little bit of publicity in a life where you have very little, surely if you've got some control over godparents, isn't that just one area where you might want to...
You can't dictate to the media. That's the problem. I think at the moment, there's
Why
all this about... You can't. Because eventually, they're going to build you up and knock you down. So the reality is, by doing this whole thing of saying we don't want to cooperate, yet we want to use you, eventually it's going to backfire. And that's unfortunately what's happened.
So it's where the Cambridges have probably...
They managed it quite well.
They've managed this quite well with the children. They obviously want to keep the children as private as possible and as normal as possible.
But they brought the children out for the Back to Nature garden.
Yeah, there's photographs
set of pictures, weren't they?
Photographs for their birthdays.
But it's not really, is it? I mean, I think if you want to be overly cynical, you could say, yeah, they're using their children for to talk about Back to Nature. I thought the whole thing actually came across quite natural.
Yeah, really well.
And the kids were swinging. They didn't, on the ropes and everything. They were playing, and that's the point. I think that you must just get a balance right. I think he's probably, Harry's a new dad. He's been very overprotective, I think.
All right, before we wrap this up, just two quick things then. One, the Sustainable Tourism Initiative is very important. It involved Booking.com, TripAdvisor, some really big players, Skyscanners. But Harry sort of touched on the flight issue twice, didn't he? Once in the speech and once when he was asked a question.
Yeah, once very subtly in the speech where he sort of alluded to it by saying, no one's perfect and we could all do better.
We could all do better, yeah.
And then there was a panel discussion with some of the CEOs from the travel organisations, and Harry stayed on stage for that, and they opened the floor up for 3 questions. And one Dutch journalist asked him specifically about his own travel plans.
Personal travel plans.
Yeah.
There's one classic example of how the difference in perception happened. Go back a few years, the Cambridges went on a ski holiday on the Duke of Westminster's private jet, then released all these wonderful pictures of the families together. There was hardly a mention of the private jet because all these wonderful pictures of the children were released.
But they still went on a private jet, and they
but
still
no one
pumped
cared.
out a lot of CO2.
But no one cared, and that's because the media is a fickle beast.
Yeah.
And they were just delighted to lap up all these wonderful pictures that were given to them by the PA free.
Yeah.
It's all a way of handling it.
Okay, and the last thing on this matter, was it intentional or coincidental that the Cambridges, William, Kate and their 3 children then got on a budget airline to fly from Norwich, their house near Anmer Hall, up to see the Queen at Balmoral?
But it was empty when it reached Norwich.
Which, again, that cost a bit of CO2 to send it down there, didn't it? I mean, there are some people who say that it was a stunt to rub salt in the wounds of Harry and Meghan. Do you believe that?
I mean, the thing that we do know is that any royal plans take a month in the planning. They don't happen.
They don't happen that week.
On a
Nothing
Tuesday
is done
evening.
by accident.
You think? So we've got different views here.
No, I agree with you.
Nothing's happened by accident. But actually, the Balmoral trip to go and see the Queen would have been in the diary for a few months before. So
it must have been.
It wasn't arranged that week in order to make the brother.
I mean, William, when he was a helicopter pilot, did his fair share of whizzing around in the helicopter, landing in places, to see his then girlfriend, Kate. Yeah.
Let's stay in Scotland then. I'm going to go geographically then, rather than go to Harry and Meghan's trip to Africa, and we'll talk about that. And you were in Angola when Diana was famously there, but let's do that in a minute. Scotland is where the Queen is at the moment. She spends every summer there.
She's not had a restful time.
Not had a particularly good time in
She
Scotland.
wants to stay there.
Probably.
But it's meant to be the place where she gets a break. She's had the Prime Minister up there, as always happens, and she's
only
also
briefly though. Maybe he could have done the stay.
She's had the leader of the House of Commons. If you're not in the UK, a chap called Jacobs Rees-Mogg, who went up there and asked her if she would give permission to prorogue/suspend Parliament. I can imagine the Queen would say to her politicians, "Can you just give me some peace?"
But this all comes down to this business, doesn't it? That the Fixed Term Parliament Act, which came in 2011, which was brought in effectively by and run by Nick Clegg, is a bit of a nightmare. The whole thing has changed the way things are operating in Parliament. I honestly believe that the Queen would have obviously acted in full good faith. She would have believed her ministers were given her the right advice.
Take her advice from her Prime Minister.
However, I do believe, and this is slightly controversial, that if the Prince of Wales was the King, I think he might have sent Rees-Mogg and Boris away with a flea in their ear, and to come back with a more.
Wouldn't that have been more controversial?
Things are changing all the time. The whole point is
the UK
they're telling us the laws are different. One thing the Prince of Wales knows about is that he believes in leadership rather than just doing it and leading it by the way it's been done before. The fact is, I think a king, head of state, would have been well within his remit to say, are you sure about this? Don't just turn up here and then fly back to... Can you go and take more advice on this before you put it to me officially? Because officially, he has to accept his minister's advice.
And the Queen, who's been doing this for 67 years, surely if she thought there was something up, she would have sent him...
No, she took the advice of her ministers. But I'm saying that the character of the king, the character of the monarch is different in the two people. And I honestly believe that without causing a constitutional crisis, I believe that and I was speaking to someone about this not that long ago, who's quite close to the Prince of Wales, and of course we've seen what was happened to his very good friend Nicholas Soames. You know, Winston Churchill's grandson kicked out of the Tory party. There may have been a conversation where he said, "Don't just fly up here, Boris, with your girlfriend and spend half an afternoon with me and fly back. Let's have a proper conversation," because the Queen has had 14 prime ministers. Her first prime minister was Winston Churchill. Wouldn't it have been better for the Prime Minister to actually take some advice and listen to what she's saying, rather than fly in, get something rubber stamped, fly back down, because his special advisor says it was a good idea? That's not going to cause a constitutional crisis, because that's a private conversation.
And what is it the famous Victorian constitutional expert Walter Bagehot said? You have a Queen has a right to be consulted, a right to warn, and a right to encourage, or something like that, isn't it?
Well, but that's the whole point. It's a private conversation. If this if you've come in with this piece of paper that's sort of just hot off the press of what you're going to be doing with this program, the fact is, this is all new. This is all new, what's been going on here. And she might say, well, I need a bit, before I give you my rubber stamp, which of course I have to, because I have to take your advice,
yeah,
maybe we need to go through this a little bit more. And maybe then the Prime Minister may well have thought, well, maybe I'm rushing this a bit, because this is a person that has had more experience than anyone. And I believe actually that the Prince of Wales would obviously have to take advice, but he might have said, could you put that advice to me after you considered it a little bit more?
That's interesting.
That's right.
So, in amongst these visits from ministers and prime ministers and all the rest of it, but she did manage to get out to the Braemar Royal Gathering, the Highland Games.
Which
there,
she does every
blanket
year.
on the knees,
Yep.
sat next to her son and daughter-in-law and eldest grandson as well.
Yeah, Peter Phillips and Autumn Phillips were there, along with Charles and Camilla, and it's the traditional Highland dancing, tug of war. She goes every year when she's up at Balmoral. So, yeah.
Now, Sussexes, should we go back to them?
Did they?
Well, they haven't
didn't
been to Balmoral, that's fact.
Tennis was on.
They haven't been to Balmoral. She did go to tennis. We don't know if she snubbed the Queen, as I've read, or whether actually...
I don't think there's any snubbing going.
They weren't invited.
What do you think, Leslie? Was there any snubbing?
Here's the fact. They haven't yet been. They could go.
She's there until the beginning of October, isn't there?
So there's time. Anyway,
although they're quite busy.
So quickly, I mean,
with the tour.
Meghan went to see Serena. Unfortunately, Serena wasn't successful at the US Open.
Yeah, there were some reports that is Meghan jinxing Serena because she's seen three, and I mean everything Meghan does, it's this time it was every time she sees Serena loses.
But my Serena's probably said, don't turn up now.
We were told by Buckingham Palace that the Duchess of Sussex flew to New York commercially. Let's just be clear about that. Let's talk about Africa. Massive tour coming up.
Yeah.
Huge tour. Blimey, I mean, there's so much to talk about, isn't there? We mentioned Angola, so let's just run through it. First off, Cape Town, couple of days in Cape Town. Harry then goes off to Botswana. Then he goes to Angola, then Malawi, and then they rejoin together back in South Africa in Johannesburg. So what's going to be your highlight, Lizzie, of this whole thing?
When she goes to Robben Island, isn't it?
Which is not scheduled.
What's Meghan going to do in her downtime? Or okay, well, let's talk about the official.
Let's talk about the official programme. I mean, I think it's no secret of Harry's love of Africa, is it?
Yeah.
I mean, he's been going there. I think they said since he was 13, and
took Meghan to Botswana.
Took Meghan to Botswana very early in their relationship, and they went camping. So this is, a very special place for them both. And we've got a 10-day tour packed full of engagements.
Have you counted how many engagements? Because you famously remember how many we had in Australia. Was it like 86?
Yes.
I'm only going to South
76.
Africa. I'm going to Cape Town and
76.
Johannesburg, because that's where she and Meghan and
But although only this time you're only staying in South Africa, you yourself have been to Angola, and you went with someone called...
Arthur Evans. No, Princess Diana went there many years ago, didn't she?
So we're talking 1997 here.
In fact, I found this old cutting. I was going through some old drawers and everything. And I found this cutting, and
You've been doing that a long time, Robert.
But it was really. I didn't recognise.
30 years.
I didn't recognise the picture by then. I'd look like I'd eaten myself. But the fact is, he was talking about how we made her walk through the minefield twice, because the photographers all said, "No, we didn't get that, ma'am, and we have to go through it again." And it was a cleared minefield. But she was getting. I mean, they're talking about the stick that Meghan's getting, and she's getting totally unfair stick, I think, at the moment. I think people need to back off and realise that this is a new person who's not used to being in this royal family. Yes, she has been a
in many ways
Hollywood
fresh air. Though,
at the end of the day, she's somebody new.
Yeah.
She's trying to do her best, and they should just back off. I mean, I think the thing is, though, with Diana, when she was in Angola, she was getting masses of criticism, not least from Nick Soames, Prince Charles's good mate, who said that she gone off the rails.
Political by talking about landmines.
And then Diana then said, and to the then BBC, we can say that, BBC correspondent.
Quietly.
Jenny Bond, who was up there as well.
I believe it's another broadcasting company.
Yeah,
I don't know.
It is available. Should you want
I don't
to watch it.
I don't know if they've got anything as good as the Royal Rota, but the fact is, she then said, "I'm only trying to do some good," and she was getting terrible stick, Diana, really, in the questions in the House of Commons. Now, we haven't had any of that, so I think we should, because social media is here, and we've got the online TV shows like this. She's getting criticism, but nowhere near what Diana got.
How much social media did you have in 1997?
I think we were lucky if you got a phone to work. I think there was one phone. We flew in on the... It was very funny because we flew into this area on a UN aid plane, and it was the scene when she basically met up with a child in hospital. This child had been terribly, seriously injured, and we then had to fly back. There was no phone, so then it was still years after the war, the Civil War, and then by the time we got back, I remember phoning in and saying we got all this stuff. They said, "Oh no, you've got to go back and get to the child." I said, "There's absolutely no way. The UN aid flight goes twice a week." So, and they had to fly back. But it was a very amazing... What she did in that time was groundbreaking.
And those pictures became iconic of Princess Diana wearing the mask with the Halo Trust, who do a lot of great work, including that country of landmines. And Harry's going to go back to the exact same spot that his mother went to in a place called
Wambo.
It's Princess Diana's Road, isn't it? That's what it's called.
Yes. The town's called Wambo, and the streets, if you look at it now, the street's entirely different.
Yes, what they call a thriving community. There's schools, houses. Yeah. So you'll see Harry walking down the street where his mother was in 1997.
It's quite sort of poignant and emotional because it happened in 1997. I thought, well, you'll correct me because you were there, in a January, February sort of time. She died in the August. Yeah. And it was in the following December, I think, in 97, that they had the conference where they declared that the world should be landmine free by 2025.
And she'd also been out to Washington for a big dinner gala and made and really got the president.
Yeah, but here we are, 22, 23 years later, and there's still landmines in Angola.
Outrageous.
I mean, clearly we've taken it all. Collectively, the world has taken.
All I remember, and I hope you two have both had your yellow fever jabs.
We have.
Because I remember we were all turning up at the airport, and if you didn't have your certificate, there was a room at the side with this one man with one injection. And no change of needle. And all the photographers didn't have one of them didn't have his... He said, "Give me your letter." And I said, "No, you've got to go in there." And there was a lot of nervous photographers.
And they would just spray you with mosquitoes.
It was hilarious. It was funny.
Before we go. So Angola clearly would be very poignant for Harry. Malawi talking about conservation in particular. In South Africa talking about the problems of townships. Yeah. Meghan's making speeches about feminism and girls' education. I mean,
everything Meghan's doing, there's a lot of focus. She's going to
the meeting, are we allowed to say, Archbishop?
We could say that, yes.
Tutu.
Okay. Yeah.
So you've got the headline.
What can we say?
So the headline's going to be when they say goodbye, you can say Tata Tutu.
They're also meeting the former partner or wife of Nelson Mandela, his second wife, Graça Machel. So, I mean, it's going to be a busy...
But Harry went there, of course, in Cape Town with his father just after Diana's death, and he was there. That's when he, with the Spice Girls and Mandela and all that.
Oh, the famous shot with the Spice Girls. So, what do you think then? Prediction of the tour is going to be pretty, busy.
Very busy.
Main bit will be Robin Island when she goes.
We keep talking about Robin Island. Apparently, that's not in the programme. So,
it's when you're going to be in Angola and I'm going to be in Cape Town.
So you wish. We can also talk a little bit about the fact that William and Kate are on tour.
Do we want to talk about Archie on the tour?
Archie on tour. We can say that William and Kate are going to Pakistan.
We can.
That's allowed. Do you want to rewind and talk about Archie on tour?
Well, only because everyone keeps asking on social media whether
it's going to be Cape Town.
I have a question for you. Are we going to see baby Archie on the tour or not?
Thank you for asking that, Chris. I don't know.
We're bound to see him. At some stage, we're going to see him.
I have my doubts.
We're going to see him on the boat from Cape Town out to Robben Island.
We should be clear, there are no plans for Robben Island. But they, sources have said they hope to be able to include him at some point. But obviously he's going to be 5 months when we're in Africa.
And as long as we don't just see a hand, a leg and a piece of half a face, I think I'll be happy.
If you were to make them into jigsaw pieces, you might end up with a whole image of Archie. Anyway, we digress. So I was talking about Pakistan earlier. That's a pretty big visit to a country, let's be clear, is not
it's going to be brilliant.
The safest countries at the moment.
Brilliant.
I mean, on the border of Afghanistan and all the rest of it. So
my first ever trip, I'm back in the war.
You reminiscing?
Was with Princess Diana's first solo visit. And that was to Pakistan.
Right. Well, Pakistan means a lot to Princess Diana. I mean, we're talking about Harry remembering his mum. William would be going to Pakistan where, famously she was going out with Hasnat Khan, the heart surgeon, who was Pakistani, and she went to meet his family out there. Were you there?
No, I didn't do that job. I was skiing, I think, or something. Busy. No, but it was, it's an amazing, it's going to be an amazing visit, I think. I mean, they are going to certain places which I don't think we're allowed to say anything about.
We can't say where they're going, no.
But I just think the poignancy of, you've got in South Africa and Angola, Harry not reminiscing, but actually highlighting the work that his mother started. And I think we're going to see similar sort of thing going on with William in Pakistan. Of course, it's far more a diplomatic mission for a future king, like we saw with Middle East. So it's positioning William in a slightly different place. But I just think that it shows how, she still has a very important part in their lives, even now then from boys to men.
And, we're having to get to the end of the programme now and wrap up, and yet we haven't spoken about, Hillary Clinton's praise of Meghan, Ellen from The Ellen Show, Ellen DeGeneres talking about how she went to meet Archie. We haven't spoken about Prince William highlighting the very important mental health issues for emergency services, as we say here, or first responders, as they say in the US. We haven't spoken about Harry marking the 5th anniversary of Invictus Games. Any of those you want to pick up on before we...
He's done it, hasn't he?
You've done a very good roundup.
I'm a big fan of the Invictus Games, as you know. I think it's an amazing event.
It was his 5-year anniversary.
What is incredible is that they keep being able to do it. I was at the in the Canary Wharf on the trading floor where Harry was doing.
That's another one I forgot to mention.
Where he did a billion pound gilt trade, which was one of the biggest trades in 5 years on the market. And he closed the trade.
So you were on the trading floor this morning?
I was there.
Sell, buy. I
was trying to listen, but I couldn't get any hit tips. But that one trade would have made something like the 50,000 for charity.
Wow. I mean, it's exactly.
So they do an awful lot of good, and I think that really, I know you're in agreement that. I think everyone's going on about the things that Meghan and Harry are getting wrong. I think we should just
focus on what they're doing well.
What they're getting right.
One thing they are doing right, Meghan back from maternity this week and supporting the charity of which she is patron, SmartWorks, which is all about women going back to work after a long period of unemployment and having the right clothes to dress them in, which is very important. And the charity event that she's launched this week, a new, now what do they call it? A capsule collection, I understand?
A capsule collection. Yep. She's working in collaboration with... No. It's a...
Lizzie, you go.
We've done this once this week. It's a small collection of essential
clothes for workwear. Mix and match.
And so a central London location where, and for every one item sold,
one is donated to the charity, which helps women getting back into the workplace.
SmartWorks must actually, they must be so pleased that Meghan chose them as one of her charities.
Brilliant. But she's doing a lot of good, and I think we've got to remember that, haven't we?
Yeah. And she's collaborating with some pretty big names on the high street,
Okay, I doubt if we'll get a chance to do one of these before the tour starts. So we'll see you in South Africa. We won't see you in Angola with your yellow fever certificate and your insect spray. But obviously, because you were there in 1997, you don't need to go back again.
It's a great place.
But enjoy yourself when you go visit Robben Island, where Nelson Mandela was held for those years. Lizzie, thank you very much. We will get busy planning this tour, and we will try and do one of these if we can on tour. We're not quite sure whether we do it from South Africa, Botswana, Angola, or what's the other place?
Malawi.
But we will try and do one of these at a sort of convenient point on the tour. As you've probably established from this particular episode, there is absolutely loads to talk about with this bunch, otherwise known as the Royal Family, and we'll try and do some more very soon.